Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, March 18th. Welcome back from spring break. Hope everybody had a great break. Nice, relaxing break. You're back ready to go. If you are absent today, I know there are a couple of you guys that are on vacation or just getting back from vacation. And so let me just kind of go over what we did today. If you go into today's folder in March, you're going to see where it says students reviewed. Whoops, that should be reviewed. I'll change that. Students reviewed the evidence, both macro scale and molecular scale, in order to identify the reddish-brown substance and then write a scientific argument. So the scientific argument is not a summative. It is an easy scientific argument because it's not asking you to refute anything. You're just arguing one claim. So I'll get into that in a second. Your homework is the chemical reaction, chapter 1, scientific argument. That's due tomorrow, first thing in the morning, or at the very beginning of class, I should say. And remember, if you're absent, you need to watch the whole video, take notes, and you're responsible for the information in this video. So here we go. If you open up the folder, you're going to see I've got a new, for whatever reason, I didn't get that last little bit in chapter 1 notes. And so this is just 2 pages. There's a third page that's blank, but I don't think you're going to need that at all. So please go ahead and add that. If you have a hard copy and you prefer to have a hard copy, go ahead and take the notes on a digital copy and then you can grab a hard copy, or I'll just print your notes out for you and then you can just staple it with your hard copy, okay? The second thing I want you to do is go ahead and download the scientific argument. I'll talk about that as soon as I get done with the notes, okay? Okay, so here we go. We took a little bit of time in class just to talk about what we had been talking about for the last week and a half. Sometimes it's a good idea after a long break like that just to say, hey, what were we talking about? And so just asked a lot of questions of the kids to talk to me about what's the anchor phenomenon. We're trying to figure out what this reddish-brown substance is. That's our chapter 1 question. We talked about our vocabulary terms that we've had so far: property, atoms, substance. We've talked about our key concept number 1, different substances have different properties, and that things are too small or too large to see can be studied with models. And then we talked about the different models that we looked at. We talked about the samples that we looked at on the trays. We talked about the chemical storehouse in SIM and how we looked at the different chemicals. And we saw that they all had different properties, and we compared the different substances and saw that they had different properties, and so therefore we know that they're different substances. So then we come in here to this warm-up, and there is a picture in your notes, and there are 4 terms. There's atom, molecule, repeating atomic group, and extended structure. And I want you to take a look at in your notes, you'll see that there's a box and it's pointing to a specific thing. And I want you to consider how you would label those. So it's important that you understand if we talk about an atom, it's not talking about a whole group of atoms, it's one individual atom. So for example, that carbon, or I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Let me put my glasses on. The chlorine there on the left-hand side, that very first box on the upper left is showing one chlorine atom. So you would put the word atom in that box. I'm going to go ahead and let you finish that. Go back to your definitions if you need to make sure that you're understanding what do we mean by extended structure? What do I mean by repeating atomic groups? And let me take a look at that in your notes when you come back. All right, so key concept number 3. Substances have different properties because they're made of different groups of molecules. Super important. We know different substances have different properties, and the reason why is because they're made up of different groups of molecules. Not different groups of atoms, different groups of molecules. The atoms are the individual, which is, they are made of different atoms, but what makes them a substance is that these atoms join together with other atoms and they create these molecules. And the different groupings of molecules is what gives different substances their different properties. And then key concept 4 says molecules repeat to make up a substance. Molecules repeat to make up a substance. Again, this is something probably I'm not saying you don't know this, but it's important for us to zoom in and really understand what things are made of. And they're made up of repeating groups of molecules. They make up a substance. All right, so that should be your first page of your notes. Go ahead and flip to page 2. And we just talked about what we observed at the macro scale to review the properties of the reddish-brown substance. So that powder, we saw that it was red. We saw that it was a powder. It was a solid. I think those were the 3 things that we kind of talked about. So go ahead and fill in that table. I'm going to come back here and take a look at your notes and make sure you understand what I'm saying. So on this second page, all of these, the macro scale observations of the pipe substance, of the fertilizer substance, and of the reddish-brown substance. That reddish-brown substance, we know that even though all of them were solids, they all had different colors and they all had different textures. So that reddish-brown substance was a powder. And then I want you to think about macro scale. Let's think about, let me do my slideshow here. Now that we know that they have different properties, let's think about why they have different properties. So we're going to use an atomic scale model of each substance to identify the atoms that it's made of. And then we're going to be able to identify it and answer the question for chapter 1, which is, what is the reddish-brown substance in the water? All right, so you have this. We said that the pipe substance was solid grayish-brown, non-uniform grains. We even said that it was large grains or coarse grains. The fertilizer substance, solid, white, small, uniform grains or fine grain. And then the reddish-brown was solid reddish-brown, and it was a powder. So based on these observations, which claim do you think is right? Hopefully, you're seeing, because of key concept number 1 and 3 and 4, that it has to be claim number 3, that it's not the same as either one of them. But now I want you to consider, why is it not the same? I'm going to have you take a look at this. This is at an atomic scale or a molecular scale representation of each of the atoms that make up each of those substances. So the pipe is made up of a repeating atom, iron. So if you guessed that it was an iron pipe, you are right. The fertilizer is made up of a repeating group of atoms, NaNO3. So Na is sodium. It has 1 nitrogen and 3 oxygens. That would repeat over and over and over and over again to make it a fertilizer. Now that reddish-brown substance is made up of 2 irons and 3 oxygens. So now I want you to consider that is rust. So those of you guys that said, hey, I think that reddish-brown substance is rust, you're exactly right. But see, it's more important than we just identify it. I need you to know why it's rust. It's not the same as the pipe. It's not the same as the fertilizer. And so now, based on the molecular scale observations, I want you to pick a claim and choose the key concepts, and there's more than one that can help you explain your claim. And then you are going to go ahead and write out your scientific argument. Restate and answer the question by writing the claim that you choose word for word. Okay? And then you're going to use evidence to support your claim. The evidence, it says up there in the directions for number 2, it says use evidence from both your observations and the atomic scale models. And so I asked you to fill out that. So use this evidence and use this evidence. And then lastly, include key concepts to support why that evidence supports your claim. Okay? Or to explain why the evidence supports your claim. All right, that's it for today. This is due tomorrow. I gave the kids time in class to write, but if not all of them got finished, and so that's homework for today. All right, you guys, hope to see you tomorrow.